When I then dealt with Islam, I also learned more about Christianity than from the priests, I would say. One God in three and God can die and so on, that makes no sense to me.
And then I say, son, do what makes you happy. If you're happy, I'm happy too. I believe anything in the world is as beautiful for me as seeing my child like this.
So my name is Yusha, I am 27, I come from Germany and I have been a Muslim for 10 months, alhamdulillah.
Hello, I'm Graziella. I also come from Germany and I'm Yusha's mom.
So before I came to Islam, I have to say I was raised for the most part as a Roman Catholic, and I actually believed in God for my entire life, or at least in the existence of some higher power. Later, when my grandfather passed away, that was a key point in my life where I said I don't want to have anything to do with God anymore. If there is a God, why did you take him from me? And things like that. Yes, and then there was a time in my life where I truly didn't want to know anything at all about religion. I simply lived my life day by day, and I thought to myself, I am the master of my own destiny. In that way, yes, absolutely. And yes, then some significant events happened in my life again, unexpected strokes of fate, back and forth, up and down, until that point where I finally realized that I couldn't get my depression under control, no matter what I tried. Because Christianity also had no answers for me, at least not the answers I was searching for. To questions that I then asked people with knowledge, so to speak, when they couldn't go any further, it was said, that is a mystery of God. But that was not satisfying, not for me. And when I then dealt with Islam, I also learned more about Christianity than from the priests, I would say. And yes, that was the final straw for me, so that Christianity makes no sense to me. One God in three and God can die and so on, things like that, that makes no sense to me. How I came to Islam. So I had actually pretty early in my life dealt with various religions. I was also honestly at a time where, from a worldly perspective, things were going well for me. I mean, I had a healthy level of fitness, enough money, contact with women, and yeah, I was also happy with that for a while, but because I've suffered from depression since my early youth, and it came back during that time when things were actually going well for me, I then thought to myself, something is missing, so what is it that I don't have yet? And I then realized I'd have to look inside myself. And precisely because I had dealt with various religions, but not yet with Islam, that was the only religion about which I had no knowledge, or let's say only what I'd seen on TV. I then decided to look into it. As I said, it then occurred to me that this was the only religion I hadn't engaged with at all yet. Especially because I had a lot of prejudices, because I based my view of Islam on people in my circle who claimed to be Muslim. And I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but they were no better than I was. And so based on that, I thought that couldn't be the solution either. Yeah, but then alhamdulillah, the day came when I started to inform myself. I read the Quran. I talked with brothers who I know lead a different life than I do, in my opinion, a more sensible life at that point in time. And yeah, and with that research, my conviction grew more and more that there's something true to it. And I also saw many parallels in the Quran, what is commanded of a Muslim. And then things came up like, but I've believed that my whole life, and I've lived by that my whole life. I could already reconcile it with myself. Of course, there were new things too, for example, with pork. I'm German, if you can put it that way, a different culture, eating pork, drinking beer. And I had actually already stopped doing that before Islam, out of my own conviction. And most of the things that, so to speak, set me back in life happened because of alcohol consumption. Pork, yeah, out of conviction, because for the most part, I didn't like the taste anymore. And I had also read that it's supposed to be quite harmful to your health. And yeah, so it just wasn't necessary, you know, things like that, yeah. And then, yeah, as I said, my conviction grew more and more based on the facts about the Quran, for example, that it is uncorrupted. The Muslim role models or brothers and sisters in my circle, how blissfully they go through life, things like that fascinated me. And yeah, and then one day I went to the mosque together with a good acquaintance of mine because I really wanted to see the prayer and everything just to understand how it all works. So I went along with them and yeah, so what I felt there while they were praying, when the Imam recited the Quran, that went through every cell of my body. And in my opinion, I've always had a feeling like that whenever I've had a realization in my life that is true, not just in relation to Islam, but whenever I've had realizations in life regarding certain people or something like that, I've always gotten this feeling of goosebumps and tears in my eyes. And yeah, this feeling has actually accompanied me ever since I started engaging with Islam. Of course, sometimes more, sometimes less, but the bottom line is I found the conviction for myself that Islam must be the truth. Also, from a logical aspect, an academic aspect, because I'm not someone who just believes something because someone I like told me so. I investigated myself, and yeah, Islam just makes sense in every aspect. One day I heard or became aware that the Quran is uncorrupted since the time of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. And I first researched that, yeah, how can you claim something like that? Because the Bible has been corrupted, the Torah has been corrupted, and how can something that has existed for so long be untouchable, meaning that it hasn't been changed? And yeah, then I read about the Birmingham Quran, for example, and did my research. And yeah, so Tawhid, that there is only one almighty power, Allah. As I said, I felt it in my heart, I went through it in my head, and it all makes sense to me. And I've had this disposition my whole life that I've longed for something that gives me peace, that makes sense to me. I also believe that a very, very large part of my depression, which I've had since my early teenage years, was that I hadn't found a meaning in life. For me, I mean, of course, everyone has their meaning in life, but for me, I didn't have one. And that was the point that always caused a war in my head. And really, when I then found the conviction, alhamdulillah, with Islam, I really noticed I became light. The whole burden from my shoulders, from my heart, all the clouds in my head, it all went away. And since that day, of course, you're human, you're not perfect, but you have good days, bad days. But all in all, my happiness can't be taken from me anymore. Yeah, I was there for the prayer once or twice, also the Jumu'ah prayer, which is of course even more special, you know, with many people. And there were people there that I knew from back then or still know now who looked at me funny and were like, what are you doing here? You know, because they knew me from my previous life. And yeah, I said, I'm interested, I'd like to check it out. And I was really welcomed with open arms, so warmly. People were happy that I came. I have to say, I'm the only German in the mosque that I go to, but no one made me feel that way. From day one, I was warmly welcomed. All the brothers were nice to me. They talked to me. I wasn't excluded or anything like that. And I can recommend that to everyone, because sometimes you might have a different image of mosques, thinking you'd go there and have to be ashamed because you have tattoos or something. But I mean, you ultimately find your way to Islam because you want to better yourself, want to improve your life, want something better from your life in this life and of course in the next. When I, let's say, had that 100% conviction in my heart that I wanted to accept Islam, I told my acquaintance, who also knew the Imam well, who was there at the time. And yeah, then we prayed Jumu'ah. Of course, I didn't know yet. I had no idea what to say when I just copied the movements and everything. And yeah, then after the Jumu'ah prayer, there were some people I had known for a while. The person I knew, through whom I mainly, who gave me a lot of information about Islam, was also there. Then I said my Shahada, an unforgettable moment in my life. I will never forget that day. It's like the day of my rebirth. And since then, I've been one of the happiest people in the world, I can say. So my life has changed in that I now live a healthier lifestyle and that I've lost my depression. I never had problems with my mother or with my family, but it has made me a better person as a whole. More empathetic, more considerate, more dutiful. So it has given me a lot of good things and has basically taken almost all the bad things out of my life. And yeah, I'm happy about that. And I also think my mother felt it or noticed my change.
Well, I knew from him that he was doing well with it and he hadn't even converted yet, you know? And we talked a lot and so on. And I experienced how he talks, how he speaks, how he looks at me, how he reacts in many situations where he would have reacted differently before. I had said to him, I asked him a question. It was the most important question for me as a mother. I had asked him, what's going to change for me? Yeah. And he looks at me and says, Mama, nothing at all. If anything, it'll be even better. And then I say, son, do what makes you happy. It's a blessing for us. I can't explain it. It's like, I'm happy about it and I'm happy to be here. And I've witnessed my son's development. I believe no money or anything in the world is as beautiful for me as seeing my child like this, live like this. Alhamdulillah. Yes, exactly. That's beautiful, beautifully said. And he has also influenced us positively. He told us things. We asked questions. He always said, come to me. What I can answer for you, I will. What I can't, I can't. But so far, everything that has come up and questions, it's just, I just can't explain this feeling. You can't explain it. You have to experience it. Yes. I also noticed that some people didn't react so well to it, even within the family or so, but we don't care about that. And our home is our home. And at my work, for example, where I work, there are also Muslims, and I tell them how happy I am and that my son converted and this and that. They all gather around and listen. They can't imagine it. And what I also didn't know, because I wasn't that interested in it before, I was so positively surprised and happy at the same time that I also met Italian Muslims here. I would have never imagined in my life that something like this exists. And being here at home, being here, it's just, well, I don't know how to explain it. I'm happy that my son has chosen this path. We are following along. And yes, I can only say this is the best thing I've experienced in my 46 years, apart from my children.